All right, so here is how to build a graph based off of key features. So the main key features that we've been talking about are domain and range. So that's primarily what we're going to focus on. But I'm going to throw in a little bit extra too on kind of if they were to say, well, hey, it needs to use this x-intercept or this y-intercept, how you could adjust for that as well. Okay, so my domain, again, remembering domain is always going to be left to right for my x values. Okay, and my range is bottom to top with those y values. Okay, so we're going to start with our domain first. And I'm actually going to use a highlighter, and I would recommend that you have like a highlighter and maybe a pencil with you as well, just so you can kind of see like how I'm doing this. So my domain is everywhere, my x values. And again, x is going to be this axis. I have from negative infinity all the way to a positive 6, meaning I cannot go past that line on this side. So I am going to scribble all of this out because even if my y values work over here, my x values do not. So it cannot happen. Now we're going to go for my range. Well, my range is bottom to top. So what this is telling me is that my lowest y value can be -7. Well, -7 is right there, meaning that's the lowest. That is the bare bones minimum. I don't want the highlighter. We're going to then scribble out everything on the bottom here. So what this tells me now is that my graph has to be in this smaller region, but it also still has to fit, okay? When I have this domain of 6 and -7 for that x and that y, I actually kind of want to use that point to start, because if I can just take, let me use a different color here so it stands out. If I put a dot right there, that means it fulfills both of those criteria. It gets an x value of 6 and it gets a y value of -7. Does both things at once. And then I'm just going to take my pencil. I don't care what your graph does in the middle there. Okay, so if my dot's here, I could go like this. Actually, I could not, because vertical line test would make that not a function. As long as it is a function. So if you could go like that if you really wanted to. You could go like this if you really wanted to. Anything really stemming from that point. Okay, and there's one on the test that looks very, very similar to this. All right, actually I'll leave those there. Let's go and try another one. Okay, so this one, I have a domain of -8 to infinity. Again, domain are my x values. So my smallest x value to my largest. So if my smallest x value is -8, that means I cannot have anything in this section right here, because that's smaller than what my smallest x value can be. Then my range tells me I have -infinity all the way up to a value of 6 for those y's, meaning right here. So everything above 6 can't be part of my graph either. Have to have something in between there. Now again, we're going to use the same kind of rationale that we did in the last one. Go ahead and give yourself a dot in the corner where those lines kind of intersect and give yourself a graph. It can be a straight line, it can be a curvy line, it can be whatever you want it to be. Now, this is going to be one that I kind of show you something a little bit extra because I can. If they also gave us the stipulation and said you have to have an x-intercept of 4, 0 also, I would then go and I would make a dot where my x-intercept of 4 is. And I just have to make sure that those dots somehow get connected. So I could go like this. And then that would fulfill that criteria. If I went through and maybe I'm also going to add in a y-intercept. Okay, y-intercept of -6. Let's do 0, -6. Meaning it would cross right here. Well, how could I make that one work? Well, I could go down and I could go back up and I could come back out, right? Because if I put an arrow, you kind of notice how I paused a little bit. Let me show you. If I go like this, my arrow cannot keep going up because of that boundary, right? I can't have anything bigger than that y value of 6. So you just have to make sure that you curve it out so it's pointing maybe like this, okay? So that's kind of what I mean by domain and range is going to be like bare bones minimum, but we could add in other pieces and they could say, well, has to go through this point, has to go through this point, and has to go through this point. And you're going to have to come up with something that like fits all of that, okay? All right, number 3, and then we've got one more, and then that'll be it for this mini lesson. So domain, I have x's from 2 all the way to infinity. So where my x value is 2, I'm going to make that like same dotted line. Now we got to figure out kind of how to shade. Before it was a little bit clearer. This one is telling me that my x's are from 2 to infinity, meaning everything bigger than 2 still counts. So I should not have anything over on this side. And again, if you're not already scribbling these out like when I am, I would get in that habit because do you notice how much that takes away from me having to focus on? It's very, very smart. Okay, now my range, negative infinity all the way up to a value of 9. Well, 9, kind of hidden, but it's right there, meaning I can't have anything above the number 9. All right, and then we're going to make a dot where those kind of intersections happen, and you can give yourself a line. We won't do anything crazy this time with x and y intercepts, but I just wanted you to see what that looks like. All right, one more. All right, my domain is negative infinity all the way to a positive 5. And again, domain are my x values. So looking just at my x-axis, I know that 5 is where I have to stop. Let me make some more dots there. So I can't have anything bigger than the number 5. That's what my range, or that's what my domain tells me those values. Then my range is from negative 3 all the way up to infinity, meaning negative 3 is the absolute lowest point I could have here. So everything below negative 3 clearly does not work because that's going to be smaller. Then go to your intersection corner, make a dot, make a line that goes up. And it can be genuinely as simple as that. I hope this lesson video was helpful. If you need anything, make sure you let me know.